And good morning, everyone. Quick update on obviously today's setup and looking beyond as well. I'm going to give a few moments for the notification that just went out on all the social media pages and on the Wave news and weather apps as well to kind of give you guys a heads up of what we're expecting. I know you're going to have a lot of questions. I know everyone's going to have probably more questions on Sunday more than anything. I understand that's the higher outlook that is out, and I will cover that and the latest thoughts on that. Although I got to keep in mind it's Wednesday, so a lot can still happen between now and we get into Sunday. And even though there are other days that we have outlooked, including today, it's important to note that this is a stormy pattern that is going to stick with us on a daily basis all the way until perhaps Monday morning. Maybe done with this by Monday morning, I'm hoping, to where we can at least salvage part of the holiday weekend setup there. But I do think on a daily basis, we'll have to face a storm threat at some point. And in some cases, it'll be in the morning. And if it is in the morning, the benefit to that is that it would increase the chance to be mainly dry in the afternoon. And the opposite would happen in other days, where if you start off with some sunshine, you're likely going to end up with a stormy afternoon versus a quiet morning. So it's going to be hard to escape morning and afternoon without some type of interruption with this type of a pattern of showers and thunderstorms. It's going to be difficult. It's possible some of you may skip by and get a couple days without getting hit by a single storm. I'm not going to rule that out. But I want you guys to be aware that there will be a trigger in the area to allow thunderstorms to develop. So just make sure you have a plan in place, and we'll just take it one step at a time, is what we say. All right. So a lot to cover. I see your comments already as you guys are signing on this morning. So Brandon, looking ripe on Sunday. Yep. Well, hello, Angel. We'll talk about that here in just a second, I promise. All right. In fact, I think it's going to be probably the number one thing. It'll be Sunday, but we'll get to that in a second. All right. Let's talk about what's happening today, because we do have a wave weather alert day that's in place, mainly for this evening that we're going to be tracking. We've already had some showers and some thunderstorms this morning. I got a few now, not too far away from the city of Louisville. This is looking actually in E-Town. Got a couple downpours there. Lightning at times has been triggered. Nothing severe, but a little bit of lightning and thunder taking place. Here's a look at the visible satellites. Right now, within that scope that you are looking at, we're getting roughly about 60 or so lightning strikes in the past 10 minutes that have taken place. This is the leftovers of the boundary that was part of the big time severe weather that took place yesterday afternoon, evening, back into the Midwest. The outflow boundary itself has arrived in town. It did so this morning with some showers and thunderstorms. And this is about where it will stay for the rest of the day. It's not going to move very much. So this is one of those setups. All it needs is just a few more hours of sun to hit it, and you're going to get another round of redevelopment of thunderstorms along this boundary. So its eventual stopping point by midday today will be the likely focal point for the storm coverage as we end later on for this evening. But again, nothing severe taking place. These are just typical downpours. Some of you are dealing with sunshine, in fact, at the moment. First round of morning rain and thunder is now on the other side of Cincinnati, Ohio. We get down into Louisville. We've only had a couple of downpours this morning in Louisville, but overall, much of it's been either north or south of the city. And that's certainly the case now. You saw that thunderstorm in the distance there into E-Town. You got one east of you there into LaRue County as well, and all the way down into Hart County. And again, these will be slowing down a bit, but mainly just some brief gully washers. You may notice as you're driving around town, big old fat raindrops coming down. A lot of moisture in the air with this, and that's going to be the trend with all of these systems. Will be heavy rain, and in some cases, excessive amounts of heavy rain. So far, the rain amounts haven't been overly high because it's been progressive enough. And again, we're not dealing with the most intense part of the storms just yet, but Indiana's taking the brunt of the morning round. Now we're just starting to see some of the green shades showing up over the Commonwealth, where we're getting more of that development into Kentucky. But the highest rain total showing up in Evansville at a little less than 0.4 of an inch of rain. But notice, even around just north of Madison, there is at least radar estimates of about a half inch of rain. So I can't rule out that some of you that are outside of where these gauges are located did indeed pick that up this morning. All right. So what's the game plan? Well, as I mentioned, that boundary is kind of draped across the Ohio River Valley all the way back into Oklahoma. Look at these storms in Oklahoma. Messy rush hour in OKC this morning. Heavy rain and flash flooding. This is the boundary, though. It's going to be snaked across the area. Now, for areas to our west, there's a bit more wind energy and a lot more heating that will be taking place. So the Storm Prediction Center outlook for this afternoon and evening is going to be a little more focused on that southern flank from the Metroplex to near Little Rock. And for the rest of us, it's just going to be general showers and storms that will develop along that boundary all the way into Niagara Falls. Now, keep in mind, this is a setup that's going to feature more bumper cars, is the best way I always try to explain these setups where thunderstorms pop. The general motion is going to be northeast. They will be tracking in a very gentle wind that's going to be carrying them from southwest to northeast. However, there will be individual storms that will fight for space, quite a bit of competition, and that will allow for some of these storms to bounce off each other, and in some cases, they may move in an odd direction you may not be anticipating, a little more to the south or even southwest, kind of backwards. So be aware of that change in storm motion that could happen later on this evening. But again, this is a level 2 out of 5 net, a very high potential, but it is certainly one that is on the map, and really marginal and slight risk days sometimes can cause us more problems, it seems like, around here. Tomorrow's outlook is focused more in the southern part of the state. That's where the front will be. But because we're going to have much more of an active radar, I think, early in the day, tomorrow looks to be one of those days where it's stormy and rainy early in the day, therefore tamer in the afternoon. Therefore, we're cutting down on the heating of the day because of the clouds and rain. So your severe risk is still there close to the front, but it's a bit reduced compared to what we've got today. And then as we get into Friday, it will be a fading squall line that will be approaching as we get into Friday night. That'll be our main concern with that issue. And then we get into the weekend setup, which I promise you I'll show you in just a second. Let me show you the high-res modeling in the short term. This updates every hour. So we're 30 seconds away from 10 o'clock. So this is coming in now. So you guys are looking at this the same time I am for the first time. And here we are at 2:30. It's got us into the 80s, sun back out. So you can see some spotty showers and storms in the area. We get to this afternoon. Hey, we had our first 90 yesterday, right at 90, in fact, in Louisville. The latest modeling, which isn't surprising, this was been a hint the past couple of days. We could spike again close to 90 this afternoon, but much more on the humid side. So we will have a heat index if the sun comes out and we were to get to 88. You will certainly feel it. But it won't take long. You get to that level with a front in the area, a lot of moisture. You've got a late May sun angle. Thunderstorms are going to react to that, and they will begin to pop. Now, they'll be very much focused again on where that boundary is stalling out around midday today. That's where it'll wake up from its nap as we get into this evening. Timing is going to vary depending on where you're at, obviously, but I think it's safe to say after 4 to 5 o'clock, things will start to pop. There is a max window that keeps showing up roughly 7 to 10 p.m. of the greatest amount of coverage in wave country. It looks to be that 7 to 10 p.m. window. And the focal point, and this is going to be a bit odd, has been shifting more around, say, central Kentucky to near the Ohio River. And you may be thinking, well, that means we're out of the woods, right, for Indiana? Not necessarily. It just means that's where they first gobble up. The storms will gobble up the amount of moisture. You got to think of this as playing a game of Pac-Man. It begins to eat across Kentucky first, but there's still fuel for it to eat into Indiana. It will just take a second to find it. Once it does, we should start to see a little more development jump a little more into southern areas of Indiana for the overnight hours. So at some point, I think you guys are going to get showers and thunderstorms involved here tonight, but the timing is going to just, again, vary on where you're at in wave country. For now, Kentucky looks to be earlier. Indiana will be a bit later into the evening itself. And then we try to quiet things down overnight, but I do think this is going to light right back up again as we head into Thursday morning. So far, the threats we're looking at today: damaging winds, hail in some cases, and obviously very intense rainfall rates, and as well as lightning. Now, lightning is not a severe weather indicator on its own, but given a lot of folks are outside, be aware of that. Here's a look at one of the soundings from Louisville. And again, this is looking at the atmosphere sideways. And I know it's hard to read all this, so I apologize. But what I want you to get is look at the wind barbs here. This is looking from the ground level to all the way up to where the airplanes fly, basically. Most of the wind is coming in from either the southwest or due west. And I know it's indicating a tornado signal here, but this is not a directional shear type of setup, which would allow for tornadoes to form. This is more of a straight line wind scenario. And when you get little pockets, there's a little pocket of dry air right there, just above our heads. That also allows for damage winds that could be brought down to the ground level. And again, sometimes these cause more problems with trees getting knocked down and power outages than a tornado threat would. So I can't rule out an isolated tornado, but the only way you're really going to see something like that is if you get a couple of storms that collide together and there's a brief amount of change in the wind direction to allow for a brief spin up. But you're talking about a scenario that's got to all line up to see that happen. So the atmosphere is not primed for it. The storms may try to create it later, but overall, the environment is supportive of straight line winds and hail. I hope that makes sense for today's thread into tonight. All right, then we get into tomorrow. I mentioned active at times early in the day with showers and storms, fading out to much more of a lighter scenario Thursday afternoon and night. Friday, there could be some showers around, but the main focal point on Friday will be what happens into Iowa again and Missouri. There will likely be a squall line in that area. How will it behave, and will it make it all the way down here or not as we get into late Friday night? Something we'll be watching. Could be an added alert day for that setup, just FYI. Saturday overall, though, still looks like much of the extended period into at least the start of the holiday weekend. Saturday still has a downward shift there in the amount of triggers for thunderstorms to fire. So overall, it's not a zero chance, but it's not as high as the other days are for Saturday. It's good. But then we get to Sunday. And this is the day that's getting a lot of attention because one thing that happens on Sunday that is missing so far that I've been showing you guys is a strong wind field aloft. And this low pressure will indeed do just that. It will arrive with what will look like a mini warm front early in the day. We get into a warm sector set up into the afternoon, and then thunderstorms will fire along and south of the low pressure track there as we head into Sunday afternoon, evening. This is one of those setups that the warm front right now, again, it's only Wednesday, but the warm front is slated to pass through roughly around 11 o'clock to noon on Sunday. That would then put us into severe mode. As soon as it passes by your backyard, you've entered the zone, and we will stay in that zone or the boxed area, if you will, until we get into a change in wind direction from the northwest, which will likely not happen until, I would say, closer to 11 o'clock, if not midnight, Sunday night. So a good chunk of the day, especially the afternoon, evening, will be at risk for some severe weather. It passes by, and again, as long as that holds true on its current track and speed, I'm hoping this will reduce the rain chance for Memorial Day even more than what we got now. So that's maybe some good news there as well. Looking at the outlook. All right, here is the outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. It is a 30% or enhanced risk in their scale already for day 5, which would be the Sunday outlook. And it's not including Louisville, but it's on the western side of our counties, all the way down to Paducah and Memphis. You don't see this often to see this outlook. And again, the main reason for it is that low pressure being added into the mix now, the wind field. We've got a lot of moisture at play. We're going to get some heating. So everything's lining up for an active setup in all severe types because now we will have the directional wind shear will be involved. When you look at the analogs, this is the SIPS analog. Let me bring this full screen. This is the SIPS analog on top, showing the main focal point on Sunday really being across Missouri, although it's still got us elevated later into the day. The Colorado States, well, this is alarming, right? So you don't see this often. It's got us in a hatched area and already above 40% in the colors, not light purple, with a darker purple located not far from Carbondale, Illinois. Now, you may be thinking, well, we don't see that often at all. And you're right. Normally, and this is a relatively new piece of data we've been looking at, the CSU data in the past 6 months to a year. But we were in the hatched area and purple for the storm threat that we had that was right after Derby, if you guys remember. And we locked out. We really didn't see too much in the way of storm action. In fact, our severe risk was downgraded that day. So it doesn't always necessarily mean this is going to be certainly at play here. So don't fully take this as face value, but at least gives us an idea that a lot of the parameters are showing up for severe weather. So that's why the signal has been raised a bit higher on awareness for that. But how rare is it to get a 30% or enhanced risk on day 5? Well, I did look up some of that data, and it turns out the last time we saw that on a day 5 outlook, at least for any part of the Louisville forecast area from the Weather Service, was actually in February of 2016, or more than 3,000 days ago was the last time we had that on a day 5 outlook. Now, I don't have a lot of data for day 4 and day 6 on up. I can pull that, but it would take a lot more time than I have right now. But just to give you an idea that it just, again, is uncommon. We're not to the point yet to get into a lot of specifics, though, on the threats. We're obviously not trying to scare you guys or anything. It's been just a wild spring. It's been one of the busiest severe weather outlooks and spring seasons that I can recall in quite some time. So that's why it's just getting a lot more attention, probably normal. And you just need to make sure that as you plan out for your holiday weekend, you're fully aware of the potential. And let's hope that we see this get reduced as we get a little closer in time. All right, let me get you to the 10-day, some of your questions, and then I got to run and get ready for the show. So I'm sorry, it's kind of a short one here today. Susan, sorry, it's my fault. I started working on my new flower bed yesterday. So everyone, it's Susan's fault. Now, Susan, I totally understand. I did the same thing. I got everything landscaped. I need things watered, but I don't want a flood. It's a little much. And that's the thing too. I mean, even though we're not out for severe weather every day here, there will be a risk for flash flooding, because if you get hit by a storm of this type of environment on a daily basis, you're going to end up with rain totals measured in inches of rain by the time we hit into Sunday and Monday. So keep an eye on the creeks and streams near your area there. Let's see. Angela, sorry, your question. Let me try to get to it. Sorry, it's hard to see on the screen. Let's see. How does it look for around Fort Knox at 1 o'clock? You could get a downpour around Fort Knox at 1, but we would not be in the severe mode yet. The atmosphere needs a little bit of recharging, and that'll take roughly 4 to 5 o'clock this afternoon. And at that point, the tipping level has been reached, and that's when we will start to get into a warning phase. But between now and then, there'll be just typical garden variety downpours, a little bit of lightning, but so far there's nothing there at the moment, Angela. Let's see. Austin, does the severe weather look to calm down in June? It does. There is a trend to cool things down after we get past about June 1st. First 10 days, in fact, of June look a lot quieter and cooler. Could even be, dare I say, chilly in some cases. So things are going to happen. Jonathan, I'm blaming Brian. It was relatively quiet while I was on vacation. I agree. And as we get into more alert days and active weather, that's when it seems like vacations always hit too. So we'll see. We'll get through it one step at a time. All right, guys, I got to run. Sorry it's so short and not a lot of detail yet, but there's not a whole lot of detail I can give you guys this early in the game, right? So just focus on the afternoon threat and evening setup. We'll keep you updated throughout the day today on that. And then as we evolve through the next few days, we'll keep you updated on the daily threats and obviously the setup as we head into Sunday as well. All right. Stay safe, guys. Try to enjoy these breaks when we get them, and we'll keep you updated. Take care.